Yo, can you hear me? Are you listening? Just want to make sure you listen. We just want to make sure you listen. I'm gonna put the filter on to make sure you listen. For the future, no script. Yo, FTF Radio is true. It's good to be back. We out here with the homies tonight. We got Siid on the boards.
Yeah.
We got Beej in the building. We got Jacob in the building. We got Jay. We got Alex. It's a good people's in the building tonight. You know what I'm talking about?
Abundance alert.
Abundance alert.
Yeah.
Abundance alert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's the vibe? How's everybody doing?
I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel very excellent, very blessed, very grateful. All that.
Absolutely.
Abundance alert.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
yes.
Throughout the whole show.
That's the
Very
thing.
That's right.
Very grateful. Very full.
Excited to talk about community.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about people. I love people.
Yo.
Shout out people.
Shout out people. Yo. Okay. So I was driving the other day, and I had like with my homie and I just had like this vision and like if you're in an infinite room, like an infinitely dark room, like up, down, all around you, and you are the only light that exists in that room. So like the light is shining from within you. You wouldn't be able to perceive the presence of light until there is another object in that same room for the light to bounce off of. So I was just thinking about that in reference to how important it is that we do communicate with each other and we do interact with each other, and how if we completely isolate ourselves from the world, like we're a light in an infinitely dark room, like there's no way to even tell the presence of light. So it's like,
Shout out.
Shout out light.
Shout out light, yo. So I think like the community, like it's definitely a collective evolution that's happening, and we're able to shine light on each other and find things on each other that we weren't able to see completely by ourselves. So it's like I don't know,
It's a vibe.
it's a vibe.
I agree, man. This is definitely the age of information and communication. You know, it's easier right now than it has ever been in the history of the world to learn how to do something.
Yes.
And to implement it and put it into action more quickly than ever before.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. So now, the challenge isn't how do I get this done? The challenge is what do I want to do?
Exactly. Exactly.
What do I want? You know, what is the focus here? What am I supposed to be spending my time on? Because I can do anything. And I know that now. But what do I want? So I think that's like a major question that we need to ask ourselves every day before we even get the day started. Before we check email, before we check text and get on the gram and say, what do I want? Let me get ready for that. Let me go outside and get some sun real quick.
Yes.
You know, let me
Oh
eat
my
something.
God, the sun today.
Today was
a lot of
incredible.
sun.
Today was incredible.
It was healing today. Today was a healing day
Yeah.
to be outside.
It
I went on
was.
a nature walk today.
Where at?
I went to Griffith Park.
Hey.
Nature
So
walk.
many stories at Griffith Park. Shout out. Yeah.
Shouts out.
That's amazing.
Outside.
Yeah.
Outside's great.
That's crazy. I'm still coming off of this beliefs, bro. This beliefs. I'm sorry, Siri. I'm still coming off this beliefs wave. I saw my first time going to like a Mayan ruin. So it was like and I was talking to Shucheska. There was like a vibe that I kept feeling. I didn't know how to describe it, but I sent him like he responded to one of my stories, and I sent him like a photo. He was like, "Yo, that's the air the ancestors breathing within you, or the energy, or something like that." But that's cool that you say that, you know, because when you think about community, you also do think about your environment and like the literal physical, you know, the temperature, environment, like the trees, the oxygen, like the different breath that you're taking in these different places. That all kind of influences the people within it.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn. I went and saw Deepak Chopra speak. You He's like this guru,
Please
like
drop that.
scientist. Like,
When was this?
philosopher. This was a few weeks ago in Denver, and he was saying some wild
Yeah.
shit. But one of the things that he was talking about is how your body completely regenerates itself every 3 weeks. It's like for instance, there isn't a single cell in your body that was there the moment you were born,
Hmm.
and
That's really like how the body works.
Mhm.
yeah, there's not. It's So like, you have pieces of clothes that were the same a year ago. But you aren't the same as you were a year ago. So
Yeah.
he was saying like, I might travel with the same bag that I came with last year, but that's a completely different person.
Wow.
And just like thinking about that and how like we are actually going through constant change all the time, and we're sharing these things with each other all the time. Like he talked about how the air you breathe, like that intake and exchange of atoms, all this stuff, like will travel all the way around the world, like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like you'll be breathing the same stuff that a camel was breathing in Egypt, like in Los Angeles.
That's true.
And like energy is being exchanged like all the time.
I want to talk about energy. What do we think about energy as creative people? Whether it's somebody that's writing music, somebody that's a DJ, somebody that paints, whatever you do, whatever you create. I just want to hear everybody's thoughts on the importance of energy, especially since we're talking about community, we're talking about collective consciousness.
Yeah.
What do y'all think?
I think it's
The
a
topic of
transfer.
energy.
I like to think about the way it transfers.
Communicative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when all of my friends, when we all get together and dance for my team, we can't choreograph without everybody's energy being on the same level. So everybody, if we're feeling down, you feel it when we dance. All the energy just kind of transfers. So
Yeah, like a connecting. I think there's a certain quality about art, and it may be being expressed through the lens of one person, but how it is interpreted or how it is received, like this idea of like kind of getting people on the same page, or like, this is how I feel about this. Like, does anybody else feel like that? And like, I don't know. It's wild. Like, it's really wild.
you know, like, did you ever play with those magnets that like you would throw up and they like spin, like they're like
were they like the
hematite magnets? They're like this
Those
big.
are so cool.
I know.
And
I
you can
love
hear
those.
them.
You know how like I think it's, I don't know how it works, but like if you have a positive and a negative magnet, they don't, or is it, they do go together.
Yeah, you have two.
But if you have two of the same,
Yeah.
it's interesting because like you would think, well, not even think, like it is true that when you're like going into these projects, thinking about energy, you want to go into it with like people who are of the same like energy, like on the same wave, but then you also realize like there's just something about that difference that just puts it a little further, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like those that's what I think about when I'm thinking about energy. It's like magnets, like there's a bunch of positive and negatives, people taking different perspectives, different experiences,
Yeah.
and like it just all kind of meshes.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I view energy in relation to my art, especially lately. The energy that I have surrounding the things that are important to me, that I believe that are important to the community, that are important that I do for my community, that I highlight, that I pick up, that I run with, that I light on fire, it's all based on energy. It's the energy that I get when I look on Facebook and I see one more post about some young black male who got shot by a cop and the cop didn't get indicted. That fire, that anger, it's the energy that I get when I see my nieces and nephews, and the love and the joy. The energy that I am embodied by and I live through and live by, that alone is my art. And the fact that I, as an actor or as a writer, the many other facets of things that I do as an artist and love, that's a plus. Because I can share that energy that lives in me by existing and speaking and loving hard and speaking up for, you know, people who don't get spoken for, all of those incredible things. And I get to do art. You know what I mean? Like, and I get to act and people get to see it.
Yeah.
Like that for me is like, it's I love it. It's the extra layer though. And it's valid, but it's the layer on top that I'm lucky enough to be able to do and have.
That's real.
I feel like it's a weird analogy, but I feel like Power Rangers. Like
I'm
everyone
interested in this. I'm so here for it.
everyone has like
It's morphin' time.
everyone has like their specific color, and everyone is individual, and everyone is a fucking superhero. And there are these things that we're able to create, like when we come together. Like everyone is powerful in their own individual right, but when we come together, like we make this, it's like this super organism, you know. And people come together and work together. It's not just art; it's in life. Like, you know, we build roads or we build communities, schools, like whatever. People are coming together all the time, and art has an interesting way, like it's like coming together in a feeling, and like coming together in like
Stuff you can't really touch.
yeah, you know, art tries to grasp like the ineffable, you know, it tries to understand things that words aren't just enough sometimes, you know. Sometimes you need visual art, or sometimes you need to use your body to express. So and that community that surrounds a piece of art or a song or a play or a poem, like as soon as that art goes out into the world, it starts to create like its own little super Power Ranger machine.
It's a megazord. No, that's real.
It's a field of energy. It's a source.
Yeah.
So that anything that is created is a seed to create more. Think about fruit and how vegetables and plants live on.
Yeah.
Seeds are carried
Yeah.
without us doing anything. We can plant
That's
a garden
important.
if we want to, but the abundance is going to be there. You know, you can never count the blades of grass in the world. They're going to keep popping up. Trees are going to keep growing.
Yeah.
Just like the tide comes.
Absolutely.
You know, the ocean is infinite. So think about what we're doing with our time in that way. You know, that's my ask to any creative. Think about what you're doing with your time as a seed.
Yeah.
What you're doing, what you're ingesting with your diet, and that's not what you're eating, that's what you're listening to, who you're around, and what you're watching. Your diet, your mental diet. What are you training your mind for? What are you preparing? What are you attracting into your life?
Yeah.
What types of people, attitudes, and experiences are you attracting?
I want to stay on that topic about seeds, because that brings me back to one of the points tonight when I guess it's like a little backstory, like how I met Jay speaking. We were leading a conversation with a bunch of youth in Venice at Fabric Studios, LA, in response to Parkland. Also, Alex like speaking at the march, and you just speaking at class. What school was that?
Was that RFK Community Schools in Koreatown?
So us like speaking with all these young people, planting these seeds of the future. I don't know that I want to speak to that. I want to speak to that. The seeds of the future.
I think we have to be careful because there's a very fine line between what the future needs, which sometimes can be a little blurry, and what we personally adamantly think the future needs,
Absolutely.
which isn't a bad thing. But I'll speak for myself, have got to be able to navigate what's really going on right now for them, right? Because we have all of these things happening in our community, and we've got Black Lives Matter and all these things that are building now, and that is going to advance in the future, and we are going to bolster and support those things, but we also don't know what's going to happen in the future, so you got to try to look out. You know what I mean? You got to try to look past what's developing now, which is the tough part, because it requires a lot of humility and a lot of I don't know. But I think the most important thing about that is the trust in yourself and the trust in the altruism and the purity of the fact that I'm doing this for the people that are coming after me because I love them and I need them to have an environment where they can grow and live, literally live, and find their art and find their ways to create and what brings them joy and what they need. And I think that's what I struggle with the most personally.
Yeah.
Is looking out past, like, I think this is what I need, I think this is what they need, and you know, really trying to see what it is that needs to come.
Another thing that Deepak Chopra was talking about was how, like, he's like, you know, like the first organisms on our planet, blah blah blah, were like these single-celled organisms that lived on volcanic rocks, and how since that organism up until this point there hasn't been a single break in life. So actually we all are carrying the DNA in us of life, like all the way back like millions of years ago, however long it was since these organisms. And so when I think about like the future, I also he talked about how part of human suffering has to do with not knowing how long, or the what is it, the I'm missing the word, like the fact that everything doesn't last forever, essentially.
The
and
longevity?
How, like, like how like we constantly are grasping for like the moment, like or like we feel good in the moment and then we start to be afraid because of how good we feel and we're afraid that it's going to disappear.
I feel that. I'm guilty of that.
So I think about how do I, like in the present, like through experiencing the moment, take steps that I know like that are going to benefit the future.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily thinking of like it's gonna be like shit in the future, like this and this is gonna happen, this and this, so we need to do this now. But more like, no, I wanna do this now so that it can be like this in the future. And you know, like life, it's like this long and short thing. Like we're here for a millisecond in the span of things. You know, so slavery was like yesterday. And like, you know, like you were saying, like the way we're able to connect now, like it's easier to connect now than it's ever been. And I feel like we're in this place like where we're growing so fast, like our consciousness, and we're getting exposed to each other from around the world and seeing each other's hardships and like feeling each other's pains. And I don't know, all these things that you're saying is like we need to be considerate in the actions that we take now. And but I'm so optimistic for what's to happen. It's like, damn, like people that were slaves would I can't imagine how wonderful they would feel to see where we're at now. And for them at the time, it seemed like we would never get there.
So what is the next phase of progress for us then? You know, what are we working on? What are we doing to uplift the world for our grandchildren?
Yeah.
What do you guys think is like the next?
I feel like it would be like coming together, working on togetherness more, just coming together as a community instead of trying to be so individual and moving individually. Instead of just one mind, we could come together as one mind.
Yeah. That's crazy. That makes me think of this. I forget who said this, but it's an interview I watched when I was like in 6th grade, and somebody was like, you know, when playing basketball against the Lakers, like everybody sticks Kobe because they know that's where the ball is going. But imagine if like for once the opposing team, us, we knew where the ball was going and we could all stick that one person and go and make that one move together, but we don't know where the ball is going as a people. Like, we're not all on the same page. So it's like getting on the same page and like, I don't know, I think also creating these spaces to congregate now, because now there's a lot of coming together on the same page, but we're limited in the space that we can. You know, it's a lot on the internet, but like in person.
Yeah, I think, you know, like we're really we're really learning, and like we're relatively young as a species, I feel like. So like there was a time in our progress where like becoming like a smaller tribe, or like focusing on the individual, like had to be how it was as a means to survive.
Yeah, because there was like 3 of us.
Yeah.
They were
And
like,
so-
well, we did before, so.
Yeah. Like I need to eat today.
Uh-huh.
But now I feel like we're getting to a place, like as a world, where we're learning how our world works and how the resources of our world works. You know, I think in the future, I think we're gonna look back and feel really stupid for feeling like we need to have like millions and millions of dollars. You know, this world has so much for all of us. Like I really believe that coming together and functioning as like a world organism, like feeding and supporting each other and like expanding and growing, like that's where I like to believe the future is going. Like, and so like for me, I'm just like, how do we continue to bring people together in ways that are like focusing on abundance and these like positive, like filling emotions, you know, energy,
Expressing, man. Expressing freely, expressing ourselves and creating the things that we wish existed.
That's
Yeah.
If it's a place, if it's a brand. I started my own clothing brand because I wanted a brand that focused on community and togetherness and positivity.
Yeah.
We uplift the world. You know, sweaters that say abundance alert, because I didn't see that. It wasn't there. So I think it's about filling needs, and a lot of that is about education. You know, being able to do something that hasn't been done before requires not just innovation and creativity, but education as well. Resources. That's going to be one of the major bridges that can allow us to influence young people and put them in a position to be very successful. Financial education, right? Just how to be a young adult, responsibility, what taxes are, how credit works.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't teach you in school for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, they don't put you through school to be an entrepreneur and live your dreams. They set you up to get a job. But there is a purpose for school. School is not a bad thing. I went to school, graduated twice. So I love school.
Yeah.
But I'm also an artist, and I'm a creative and an entrepreneur. So it's an understanding of both. You know, having the education and then applying the education to your gifts, whatever those are, and creating what you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
I feel like they don't teach you that in school. They teach you what you need for college, but they don't teach you, you know, how to do your taxes and stuff like that.
But they teach you cursive.
Yeah, they'll teach you that, but they won't teach you how to express yourself unless it's like an English class.
Cursive.
They probably
That's what I
won't
say.
teach you how
Do you?
to.
Sorry, I'm not gonna over here. I did my signature and was like, I don't need this no more.
Like, do I really want to do this? And it's like going back to expressing yourself. You can do that all through the arts. I don't think people understand how much you can accomplish doing what you love and just getting to feel free.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the arts is for me and so many different other people. But people are so worried about what society thinks, because in society it's like, oh, that's whack, that's lame.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be an actor?
How are you gonna
That's
make any
lame.
money?
You're not gonna make money being a dancer. That's like all I hear.
Ugh.
But it's also coming together. Like, look, I'm here for you, brother. You gonna make it. You gonna do what you gotta do. You gonna get there. Just keep your mind focused on it. But you don't hear that in school. They don't teach you that in school. It's
Envy and
just
competition.
you need to know geometry. You need to know what you do. You do need school for most of your life. You
Same
probably
species.
will. But half of the stuff I'm learning now, I know I'm not gonna need in the future. I need certain things. You know, I need the arts. And it's something I cannot live without, because I cannot live without expressing myself,
Yeah.
because I feel so lonely. And I know that there are other people who feel so lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like part of schooling is feeding a system like that we're growing out of. Like I think like obviously the education, the way we are educated needs to change. Like people aren't learning the same way that we learned 50 years ago, 20 years ago, you know?
They said formal education will make you a living and get you a job, but self-education will make you a fortune. All successful business people say that. And that's when we get back to the idea of self-knowledge, which is something that I really talk a lot about when I speak to young people. When I was at the middle school last week, when I have 4 younger siblings that I'm very close to. I talk to them all the time about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Know who you are and what you want. That doesn't mean you ignore everybody. You listen to what everybody has to say, if it's working for you. But you have to make your own decisions. You have to do what's right for you. And that you can only know what's right for you when you know yourself. You can only know where you're going. You know, you talked about how do you know what to do next. When you know where you're going and who you are and what you're doing, what your purpose is on this earth, and you've decided it, you can move forward in it, and you know what the right decision is. You don't have to ask anybody else. You'll feel it. You'll be guided because you're called and you've decided a calling. And I think there's a lot of misconception around the idea of deciding what you're going to do versus discovering or having it come to you. You know, I think we have to reach a point of maturity when we
from high school, please Lord, get in college, like, but also like, who are you? And you know, like my mama, don't even get me started. That's been her whole mission with me, and I have to check myself sometimes because not a lot of people have that opportunity, and it's been my whole life, my entire life, and as much of a struggle, as many struggles as I've had intermittently. That is something that I really have to kind of breathe through and think about because it can be a lens. It can be a lens. And I also am very strong in who I am. And even that I have to lift. Because in helping other people get to the point where they feel comfortable questioning who they are, not even figuring it out, just being like, you know what? I don't think I know this. And I think I'm ready to start figuring out. That step is huge. And I never had to take that step because of the way that I was fostered the way through. And I'm not saying it's like better or worse, but that's just been the privilege that I had. And so I think I know that so much of my energy is focused on seeing like, where are you at? Where are you guys at? How are you feeling? And that step also looks different for the generation below us. Getting there is so much more difficult. You have to jump through so much more red tape because of everything that's going on, like with the National Endowment for the Arts and all this stuff that, you know, as much or as little, we had it to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that we help people get there has to be analyzed in a positive way.
And it comes too from knowing what your gift is or what brings you the most fulfillment in service. Because we all have a service.
Yes.
We're all servants. So
But
maybe
people,
for you it's one thing, and for me it's another
Absolutely.
thing. So that again comes from what are my gifts?
Yeah.
Identify your gifts as early as possible and find passions, and they may redirect, but don't be double-minded on who you are and what your gifts are and what your service is going to be.
Absolutely.
Move forward in a way, and you know things always change as we grow, like you said, but don't try to do two at the same time. I think, you know, I heard Oprah say, we can do anything we want in this life, but we can't do it all at once.
Yes.
Right, yes, absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
So it's like, what is it going to be for now? And let me go hard at it, and then that's when we start to see a lot of success.
Yeah.
When we pour into one vessel. If you have a gallon of water and you're trying to pour it into 10 cups, you're going to have a lot less to distribute, you know, to your plants or whatever. But if you say,
that's what I was just thinking.
it's going to get wasted, it's going to be, it's a situation. You got to keep track of all the cups and all these things. Some's going to be stayed in the cup, right? It's going to stay in the cup. So all of this is going to be lost. But if you use that 1 gallon and pour it into one vessel, you know, let's say it's a tree or one plant, just let that thing grow.
Yeah.
It's
It
going
might
to
go
produce
long
so
way.
many other seeds. It's gonna have such strong roots, you know, such a strong foundation to provide a platform.
Yeah.
And everything that other trees and other plants need to grow healthily.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's pour in. Let's see what it is, and go all in on something.
Yeah.
Get serious about something and go all in on it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to do multiple things and be a multitasker now, and it's like,
But to complete a task.
right, and it's like, that's cool. It's not saying we gotta only be good at one thing, but let me use all these different platforms and all these different resources and information sources to focus on creating success in one area of my life, because it will come more quickly if
Yeah.
this attention is focused.
Yeah, focused. Yeah. I think
That's it.
another thing too, real quick,
Go ahead.
is like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't have the answer, but just as a means to bring up in discussion, like,
You don't got all the answers, Sway.
how do we educate, like, awareness of how you feel, or being able, like, the feeling of fulfillment for completing a task? Like, some people don't even know what the feeling is like, so then maybe that happens, but they don't know quite how they how they got there, or just like that importance of feeling purpose, or even if it's just like as simple as like making your bed, or like some little task, but like building an awareness of like what that feeling.
Is it recognition? Is it more of like recognizing accomplishment of a task, or
Yeah.
achieving a goal or something?
And I think that recognizing like what brings you joy, and then when you have an awareness of the feeling of joy, then you can bring joy into other things that you do. Like if no one, if you never like feel love for yourself, or like how can you love what you do, or like if you do things that you love, like you can bring that love for like task-based things like into other work maybe. I don't know.
That is a beautifully big question, and I think it's so multifaceted, but in the best way.
Yeah.
Because doing what you love ranges from literally making yourself a ham sandwich in the kitchen to, no, real talk,
Yeah, real
to
talk, though.
painting a mural on one of the biggest, most visible walls in LA, you know? And I know that I used to be a nanny, so I love kids. And I know that watching my kiddos figure out what they love to do, there's no way I could have ever told them. Like, I know you love playing with your cars. You zoom them into the wall all the time, and I have to fix the dents. But, like, I'm kidding. But, you know, you play with your cars day in and day out. I have to have 7 cars in my purse, otherwise you freak out. But me being like, oh, you love to play with your cars, for them, it kind of removes the discovery aspect. And so I think that I just love that you ask that, because it looks different for everyone, but the question is, how do we foster the spirit to begin with to help people get to knowing what they love and what's important to them? And I think that the tree metaphor that you were using with the gallon of water and, you know, pouring everything into one vessel, it fits in there somehow. But I think that what does get missed is, like, what does it look like to help somebody figure out how to figure out what they love? Not what it is.
And
but
not
like,
tell them what they love.
Yeah. Because sometimes we can see it, but how effective is that if we tell them then, you know? Because the joy of coming to the realization is one of the most important parts, exactly what you were saying.
And it's different for every person.
It's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different. Everybody comes to it at a different time. But again, I think the way we can do that is through preaching self-knowledge,
Yeah.
talking about time alone, and you know, people can use the word meditation or prayer or spirituality, whatever you want, but it's really just alone time, and then getting really good at making decisions and acting on them, because that is success. Acting on decisions, execution. That's success. I can have all the great ideas I want, but if I don't go and do it, it's all for naught. I'm dying with my ideas. So it's really executed ideas, and action is what makes success. Okay, so what is the action I want to take? Well, we can take any action, but again, do I know where I'm going? Because that's going to be my guidance system. That's my Geiger counter.
Right,
That's
right.
what my feelings are going to point me in the direction of my desire, my destiny. A lot of people are lost. They don't have a destination. They don't know where they're going to get up in the morning. Don't know what I'm going to do today. Why don't you know what you're going to do today? You should have.
If you have people like that,
If
if everybody's like lost trying to tell other people where to go, then we're all
Yes.
just like bumping heads,
Everyone's
like
running into
scrambling.
walls.
We're all like, yeah.
And it's
so
like
much
things
to
may
start
change,
with.
but if you start
Yeah.
your day off with no plan, like your plans may change, the day may change, but if you start your day off just lost and just open, where are you going? You just go swimming in the ocean, wading water, swimming in a circle. You're not moving anywhere. And it's a lot of people wading water, and I was a water wader for so long. And it came to the point where I said, I'm sick of this. Enough is enough. I need to have consistent money. I need to have consistent peace of mind. I need to know who I am and what I'm doing here. I need to, I know I need to change my circle, but I don't even know who the new people need to be because I haven't decided what I want to do with my life.
Right.
Right? So, you know,
Yeah.
I've been there, and then it comes again. And 5 years later, you're at that same point, making these decisions again. But it's a point of coming to a decision and say, this is who I'm going to be and this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
So this is for me and this is not. You know, I see you have a book right here. You know, I decided to stop watching television like 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Like, I naturally just stopped because I was doing more things out in the world and pursuing my passions more and pursuing knowledge more. But then I just like, I'm done with it. Like, I'm not even going to pay for cable. Like, I literally don't just sit to do anything except read.
And it does. It has a lot to do with technology. Like everyone's, like you said earlier, when you wake up in the morning, your first thought isn't, okay, what am I gonna do today? It's, okay, what did I miss? Like somebody on Instagram, you're so worried about other people's lives instead of worried about what you're gonna do in your life, where you need to get to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, technology is an interesting thing, like,
It is.
because it is growing so fast that it is actually starting to change the way that
We interact.
we interact.
Oh.
You know, it's wild.
That's actually that's like where I find that all of this interesting because like in the midst of all of this, we like at least personally, I find myself in a weird like I'm like in quicksand because there's a lot of advantage to technology, but there's also a lot of weight that has to be carried. Like it's like literal weight and just like the weight of more responsibility. And then you know it's funny. Willow posted this story and it was like, what would you rather deal with, prehistoric problems or 21st century problems? And I'm thinking like basically what that means to me is, do I want to organize my hard drive or do I want to like tote around some rocks? Like, and that's what it's. But
Run from a dinosaur.
you feel me? Like running from the cops, like, you know what I'm saying? But you know, we're in the mix. We're in the mix and we're pushing through the weight and still reaching new heights, still connecting with more people, like still reaching more people and being able to like have these conversations. Like I was just listening for the second because that's what I wanted to say so bad. I was like, what I think the future is more listening. But I was like, let me just listen. Because that's what it is for me. Like I have so much that I want to share, and like I'm thinking it's important to keep these stories going. Like from the standpoint of being, you know, griots in West Africa, like as that's how they taught the kids. Like when you talk about education, like if we're going to teach these people how to be aware of their feelings, how to be aware of just knowing themselves and being in tune, the best way I can share that is through telling these stories.
Yeah.
And I also can only tell stories if I'm listening. So I have to be able to, you know, pause from my agenda and just be like, all right, I know what I would want, but let me listen and gauge what they want, what else can be done here. You know what I'm saying? Like just listening.
Yeah.
What up? Shout out my ears.
Abundance alert.
Abundance alert. Abundance alert.
It's like when we did at the discussion, they said we were gonna lead it, and then we started out by leading it, and then we just kind of just stopped. We sat back and let them talk, and then when you watch them talk and you watch their eyes light up as they were talking, it's the most. I'm just so proud. Like you're like, wow, this is amazing. I feel like it's the energy.
Man.
You feel the energy.
I'm curious. How did it feel speaking at the march? Like what? Because I know there was a lot of energy in that, and just
The walkout or the March for Our Lives?
the March for Our Lives.
So I'm a college student, and we got an email from the Santa Clarita Valley chapter of the March for Our Lives march that happened on this past Saturday, and they asked for speakers, and our president forwarded it to a few of us and was asking if one of us wanted to speak, so I said yeah, and I was really nervous. And which I usually am not when it comes to speaking in front of people, but because it was so important, because I also needed to represent the Black community in that whole thing. Nobody would see the face, I just think that it made face. I showed up, and the energy was really beautiful and really pure. And I sat in my seat, and I looked around, and they had this gorgeous memorial for the students, 17 desks, 17 white roses on them. It was absolutely beautiful. They had a pair of shoes with a sign on it for every school shooting that had happened, I think in the past few years. It was absolutely gorgeous. So I sat and I listened, and these students, I was sobbing every time I got up there. These students had it with just everything that was going on, and the eloquence and the honesty was just that preceded me was just incredible. And I went up there on such a different level of awareness and confidence, and I realized that what I had to say really just blended into what needed to be said overall, but the individuality of it was still valid. And I believe I wasn't the only Black person that spoke, but I was the only Black female. But what was wonderful? I didn't feel like I stuck out like a sore thumb for once.
Yeah,
I felt representative of myself, of being Black, female, queer, and all the other communities I identify with. But I felt like it was fine for me to be there and to be that, as opposed to like being the Black female queer speaker, because it gets so exhausting sometimes. And coming down after giving my speech, I focused a lot on the fact that the words safe and schools are supposed to be interchangeable, but they're actually complete opposites nowadays with everything that's going on. Because the theme was demand safe schools, and I talked about how we used to run around and play at recess, and now kids run around and find the rooms that have lockable doors, so when shootings happen, they can hide. And what I eventually came down to is just that safe and schools need to mean the same thing again. But I guess I say all this to say that speaking there was absolutely enlightening, and I felt community in Santa Clarita, no less. And I'm glad that I spoke, and I'm grateful that I had the opportunity. But it's probably one of the first times with my activism, especially from being back home, that I felt like I was in a circle and a part of an organism and a part of something, and valid again as all the things that I identify with and why I was there and what I was speaking to. But it was really enlightening. It opened up a lot for me, and people were really receptive. Oh my gosh, there were so many cute old ladies there who were like, "Oh, thank you. You need to run for office," and I was like, "Thank you, ma'am. I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but like you're really sweet." But yeah, the experience was pretty groundbreaking. It was different than any other experience I've had.
That's awesome.
And I'm glad that I went, and I'm glad that I spoke.
Yeah, damn.
I'm glad too.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I was talking today with a homie just about how, like, a while ago I just started feeling like I'll never know when or who it is, but if I can just positively affect one person,
yes,
then my entire life, however long or short I'm here for, has been worth it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like, I think that brings it back almost full circle to the light in an infinitely dark room.
Yeah.
And how like
Shout out the light.
Shout out light. But like that feeling that you feel, like when you get on stage, like when in that moment you got on stage and you addressed these people, like, and you felt like you were speaking for people and that you were being received. I think that's somewhere in all of our DNA, like that want for I hesitate to say validation, but just to feel like we are seen and heard.
Appreciation.
And regardless of if you work in the service industry or you're a doctor or a janitor, like, I think everyone does.
The best gift that I can give to the youth nowadays is patience. You all want everything so fast. This is a process. What the basketball players talk now, you have to trust your process, man. It doesn't happen overnight. So my gift to the youth is patience. Have that. Use that. It's a friend. It'll come in handy in a tight situation.